At this time, I'd like to introduce this month's speaker, Laya.
Thank you. I'm Laya. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Laya.
It took me immensely too long to realize I was an alcoholic. I started drinking young, like probably my kid's age. Like, I have distinct memories of being 3 or 4 and drinking at least 2 glasses of wine on Friday with my parents for the Sabbath for fucking years. The first time my parents told me I had had enough alcohol and I could not have any more, I was 6 years old. And I waited for them to be distracted with my autistic siblings and then snuck into the kitchen and got myself more wine until I passed out on the floor. It did not get better from there. By the time I started high school, I was drinking every single day from the time I got up until, I don't know when, because I blacked out in the middle of the day. I had a lot of situations and circumstances in my life that I used as my excuses for why it was okay that I was an alcoholic and that I was drinking the way that I drank. I was a child bride. I got married for the first time at the age of 14 with my parents' consent and them getting almost $250,000 for me. And of course that also came with an adult who was willing to buy me as much alcohol as I wanted to keep me fucking quiet and compliant. And so that really got the party train going. And I quickly moved from, well, I'm going to drink until oblivion to now I'm going to drink and use alcohol in other forms. I ended up having a lot of problems from my substance abuse. I broke my back at 17 because I tried to compete in gymnastics while fucking high on heroin. And I fractured my L1 through my L3. I spent 6 months not knowing if I was going to walk, but with some really sweet pain meds from the doctor. So that made coping with not knowing if I would walk a lot easier. By the time I graduated high school, I was a full-blown heroin addict and still an alcoholic, drinking every day, all day, from the time I got up until God knows when, because I'd black out. It reached a different level when my first husband died and I got the life insurance money. And suddenly, alcohol became very difficult to get because I was only 17. And suddenly illicit substances were much easier to obtain than the alcohol, so I used those as a crutch for quite a while. I had the first blackout that I could not argue with my friends about not being a blackout with when I was 19. The last thing I remember before I blacked out, I was in the cafeteria at the community college I was attending, and I came to over 2 weeks later in Humboldt County, married again. No idea how I got here, no job, no plan, had burnt all the bridges along the way. And it was, I had 1,001 reasons why it wasn't my fault, and it wasn't because of the drugs, and it wasn't because of the drinking. And didn't you just know I was a victim of the world? And I continued on that track for a while. Things were significantly worse in my second marriage than my first. It was, to spare the gory details, it was horribly abusive. And I am lucky and grateful to be here today. And when I finally got out of that, I had this first feeling, this first realization that I was, as people say in the program, restless, irritable, and discontent. At the time, I was unwilling to consider the idea that drugs and alcohol were the problem. So I convinced myself that it was just the drugs. And if I stopped the drugs, it would be fine. I could drink as much as I want to. My life would get back on track. And so I tried it. And I did manage to get off of hard drugs. I continued to drink alcoholically and engage in alcoholic behaviors that continued to fuck up my life. I had a lot of not yets along the way. I never got a DUI. I never got arrested. God only fucking knows how. But I was in and out of psych wards a lot. One of the reasons that I used to give for why I drank and why I drugged the way I did was I live with bipolar 1. And one of the big reasons why I would justify my behavior was, well, the meds the doctors aren't giving me aren't working, so I'm going to self-medicate. And that did not help. Fast forward a little bit, I continued with the drinking. By the time I was 22, 23, I don't remember most days past noon. I would get up at 6 a.m., start drinking, get the shakes gone enough so I could drive to work, stop at the liquor store on my way to work to fill my backpack with booze so I didn't have to steal too much alcohol from my boss so I wouldn't get fired for it. Because they didn't care if I came to work drunk, but they draw the line at me stealing their booze to get drunk. And so I continued on that pattern for a couple years. I had probably a year and a half of just drinking and problem after problem after problem of repeating situation after repeating situation. And then I started getting really sick. I started having a lot of, I told myself that it was just an ulcer from drinking too much because I started throwing up blood. And I started losing weight like crazy. And then I collapsed at work one day and they took me to the hospital. And they told me that I had drank myself into early stage liver failure and pancreatitis, and I needed to put the bottle down. A really nice social worker lady came in and asked me if I maybe wanted to try checking out rehab and seeing how that would go. I told her to fuck off, and I didn't have a drinking problem. And I continued on that pattern for probably almost 3 more months. I had 16 hospitalizations in that time span, and every single time they would release me from the hospital, just barely stabilized. I'd be telling the doctors, I'm not going to drink again. I'm not going to drink again. I would immediately get in the car and tell my partner to take me to the liquor store. And I would stop at the fucking liquor store on the way home, not even knowing why I was doing it. Like, no idea under the sun why I had this, compulsion, this inability to stay stopped. I did have a couple moments of, awareness during that stretch that I needed help. I needed to quit. I couldn't keep drinking myself to death. And twice I tried to do the cold turkey thing at home. Once I had a seizure in my living room and my girlfriend called an ambulance. And the second time she convinced me to go to the ER, and 20 minutes after we got to the ER, I had a seizure in their waiting room. So they fast tracked me, and that was another fun little hospitalization. I couldn't fucking get it. I had this idea that I just had to try hard enough. I had to be a good enough person. I had to arrange my life in a way so that it would all fall into place and the drinking problem would just solve itself. And I was so mad at myself that I couldn't figure it out and make it fucking work. And I remember that last time I got released from the hospital, for a little over 4 years ago and a day. And I got released. My boyfriend picked me up. We stopped at the liquor store. And the bastard wouldn't give me any of my booze. He's like, I'll buy it for you, but you got to wait till we get home to drink it, because little did I know I was coming home to another intervention. And he had gathered all of my friends, all of my partners, everybody that couldn't watch me keep doing what I was doing, but also were just fed up with my bullshit, fed up with me stealing from them, fed up with me lying to them, fed up with the constant, just underhanded, shady alcoholic behavior. And I argued with them for a little while. My girlfriend finally was like, well, you're going to AA whether you want to or not, because he has all your alcohol and I have all your cigarettes, so you're not getting either of those until you go to an AA meeting. And the only thing I have a bigger problem with than booze was cigarettes. I still haven't gotten the cigarette monkey off my back, as you can see by the pack in front of me. And I was fucking furious. I felt so betrayed that the people who said they cared about me were trying to tell me what to do and control me, and that was all I could see in the moment. And hindsight, that is 100% not the case. They cared about me and they loved me and they were doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So in order to get my cigarettes and my booze back, I went to the first AA meeting. But my plan was I was going to go to the meeting, get everybody off my back, get my substances back, and then go home and kill myself. That was my plan. Obviously, it didn't go that way. I walked into the Sisters in Sobriety meeting crawling out of my fucking skin. I tried every trick under the sun to get those cigarettes before the meeting too. It's like, well, I pulled up, give me one. No, go into the meeting, attend the meeting, then you get your cigarette. And my girlfriend, bless her little heart, at the end of the meeting, before she gives me the cigarette, she points at two alcoholics standing outside chatting. One of them smoking. She goes, hey, they're smoking. Go make some friends. Go talk to them. And I did. I did not fucking want to, but I knew how much of a stubborn bitch my girlfriend was, and I wasn't going to get my cigarette unless I did what she told me to. And one of the reasons why I did go up and talk to those two ladies was something one of them had said during the meeting. Actually, something that every single woman at that meeting had said that first night. I went to the women's meeting, and everybody shared that they didn't want to be there that night. Nobody at that meeting was there because they wanted to be there. They were there because they wanted the life that sobriety offered and the difference that the program made. And it was astonishing to me to realize that, like, nobody's there because, like, it's the fun thing to do on a Sunday night. Like, that's not why we go to AA. That's not why we're here tonight. But I had two, like, little seeds planted in my mind at that first meeting. They weren't growing yet, but they were planted, and they were the seeds of hope and the seed of willingness. Because the overly nice, scary lady that came up and offered to sponsor me at the meeting was going on and on about willingness when she was trying to talk to me, and I wasn't unwilling, but the idea that all I had to be willing to do was try was so foreign to me. Like, I had this idea that if I couldn't do things perfectly and I couldn't get it right on the first try, it wasn't worth my time and it wasn't worth my effort. And I didn't get in the beginning when I was new that I had to open the book and read it and do the steps. Like, I thought that was optional. For my first 6 months sober, I held on by the skin of my teeth and the grace of God alone. I ended up homeless at 3 months sober, living in my car with my cat. I got fired at about 6 months sober when I found out I was pregnant with little man over there. And all throughout it, I just kept asking the people around me, like, what do I do? How do I keep from picking up? Why is it working for you and not for me? Was the one I kept asking those two girls from the first meeting. And they just kept telling me, well, are you doing the steps? Do you have a sponsor? Are you calling your sponsor? Then when I said I had a sponsor, they had to, like, start probing, like, well, are you doing the shit? Like, you can't just say you have a sponsor and then never do the sponsor stuff. And, like, that's not, I found myself at about 9 months sober, probably 4 months pregnant, sitting over there in the corner, wanting so fucking badly to drink. And just getting more and more and more angry as the noon meeting went on, because I wasn't getting it, and I wasn't getting the relief, and I wasn't getting the connection to a higher power that I heard everybody here talk about and go on about as the answer. And finally, I turned to the fucker next to me, and I call him a fucker with all the affection in the world, because I would not have made it without him as part of my circle. And I went, after we all circled up the end of the prayer, and everybody went, it works if you work it. I turned to Quinn and I go, what the fuck does that mean? Because what I'm doing isn't working. And he was like, well, do you have time to talk about that? We can walk over to Starbucks, get a cup of coffee. And it was the first time that somebody in the program had taken it, like, to the basic spiritual kindergarten level for me. It works if you work it is not showing up and coming to meetings and sitting here and listening and sharing. Like, that's great, but it's not going to give you long-term sobriety. Not in my experience. It works is the steps and the principles of living that we pick up through doing the steps and learning the traditions and moving forward in that continuous, like, pursuit of knowledge and living in our higher power's will. And I told my friend that I didn't think I could get a sponsor and do the steps because the life I had lived, I could not imagine myself doing step 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. Like, all of those sounded incomprehensible and impossible to achieve. And they asked me why, and I'm like, because I can't sit down with someone with the level of honesty that you people are saying this is going to require and have them come out of the other side of it not pitying me. And they told me that I didn't have to pick a sponsor that day. I didn't have to find one right away, but I had to start praying for the willingness to look for someone. And they told me that if I kept going to meetings and I stuck around, I would hear my story come out of another alcoholic's mouth, and it would give me the something. They couldn't tell me what exactly it would give me, but it would give me something that would enable me to take that leap of faith that I couldn't at that moment comprehend. And damned if they weren't fucking right. I went to Monday Night Beginners that very same night and heard it happen. And I went up to the woman afterwards because she raised her hand to sponsor at the end. I was really careful not to ask her I wasn't going to ask her if she didn't raise her hand, but then she fucked me over and raised her hand. And she told me, she's like, I'll do it. Apparently it was the first time she'd ever raised her hand to sponsor. And she's like, I guess it worked because now I got a sponsee. And bless her fucking heart, she did it. She took my crazy bipolar ass through the steps while I was pregnant and newly postpartum. And she had so much grace and so much patience and all of the things that I freaked myself out about. My resentment inventory, my fear inventory, the sex inventory, the amends. All of it was so, like, I would work myself up into a tizzy over it and then go and do it and just feel this immense weight lifted off of me. And not once did she ever judge me or condemn me or look at me differently for the things that I told her. It was freeing to do the steps that first time. And much like the 10th step promises stay and the 9th step promises say, by the time I hit that point, I wasn't thinking about drinking anymore. It wasn't that anything else in my life had changed. Like, I was still batshit crazy. I still had a family that didn't like me. A lot of my friends still weren't talking to me. I was fucking unemployed. But I didn't want to drink over any of it anymore. I didn't need to drink over any of it anymore, whether I wanted to or not. And I coasted on that first round of steps for maybe 6-8 days, and then I started getting really crazy and really squirrely again, and I called up my sponsor, and I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, we do the steps again. It was not the answer I wanted to hear. So I started that process again. I got maybe 75% of the way through it, and my sponsor caught some resentments and ghosted me, and I caught a resentment over A and was like, well, I just won't have a sponsor anymore. And I kind of just started to get really, I definitely started getting really spiritually sick. Thank God I didn't drink over it, but I started to exhibit a lot of those alcoholic behaviors and alcoholic patterns, and my thinking problems that would lead me to the drinking started coming out again. I started fighting with my partner more. I started isolating from my friends. I stopped doing as many meetings. And I had kind of like a crisis of faith. And I went to a couple of my friends and I was like, what do I do? And they were like, well, have you thought about getting another sponsor? And I didn't like that. I got really mad at that suggestion. They were like, well, it can be anybody. They're like, find somebody that has what you want, that like has a life or like some kind of like attribute that you want, and fucking ask them to sponsor you. They're like, you love learning, go pick a nerd. Find some nerd to sponsor you. So I started paying a little bit more attention in meetings. And the other thing that my friends suggested that I do that I liked even less than the idea of going to get a new sponsor was they're like, well, you did the steps, go sponsor somebody. So I very reluctantly started raising my hand to sponsor, and thank God nobody called on me for a while. I finally did pick up a new sponsor, probably about 6 months after my previous one had dropped me. And the first thing my sponsor asked me was they started asking me about like how I was working my program. And it made me realize that I really wasn't doing a lot of, like, some people call it busy work, some people call it the maintenance, but it really is like the core pieces of my program, at least, that help keep me sober day to day. I wasn't meditating, I wasn't praying, I wasn't taking that 10-step inventory, I wasn't recognizing and owning up when I hurt the people in my life, because I had just fucking fallen off of all of that. I was sitting in my meetings and I was sharing when people called on me, and I was just coasting along. And I was getting more and more and more and more restless, irritable, and discontent. And so my new sponsor told me to keep raising my hand to sponsor folks and keep doing the book. And I got introduced to 12-step calls. I took my first 12-step call at about 2 years sober. And it was an entirely different experience going to help an alcoholic that's actively suffering and actively doing everything they can to stop and stay stopped and not being able to succeed. A couple days after I took that first 12-step call, I actually got my first sponsee. And they had so much patience and grace with me because I did not know what I was doing. And a lot of the time, my advice to them would be, I don't know, let me check with my sponsor and get back to you, which was not a good way to sponsor. But I really worked hard on trying to keep up on the inventories in particular. I have struggled a lot in my sobriety with making excuses about why I don't meditate, why I don't pray enough. My number one excuse for those two things is over there being adorable in the corner. But that it is really just an excuse. I do not know where I would be in my life today if I did not have the gifts that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. I have learned how to try a different way of living. I spent a lot of years going, I'm going to get mine, fuck you, and I don't care what happens. Living dishonestly and insincerely. Running life on self-will and trying to control the people around me. I've burned a lot of bridges, a lot of relationships trying to be the actor running the show. And I have learned in AA, it doesn't work. No matter how much I want it to, no matter how badly I may wish to be the ultimate end-all, be-all authority on the world, I am not. I struggled a lot with my higher power when I came to AA. I grew up extremely Orthodox Jewish, and I could not get behind the idea of the big bearded guy in the sky again. I had a really interesting conversation with one of my favorite old-timers one day about the different conceptions of God. And they dead-ass told me that their higher power was the doorknob to the meeting because it had helped more people than anyone else they could think of. They're like, that doorknob that has let alcoholics into this room for however many years, I think they were like 20, 25 years, is far more powerful than I am. And the absurdity of that, like, I laughed at it at the moment, but I thought about it for like the next week, 2 weeks. And then I ate shit going up the steps to Monday Night Beginners one night. You guys know the big steps up to that church there. I ate shit going up those, and I had a flash of inspiration of gravity. Who am I to argue with physics, the laws of gravity? And so I did the whole science is God thing for a while. And that kind of failed me during my crisis of faith. I had a lot of problems that, like, science couldn't really, like, explain and answer, and I got really mad, and I didn't pick up, but I came really close a couple times. Through the grace of my higher power and the people in the program that have been there for me and that have put up with my bullshit, I was able to find a connection with a higher power, find a spirituality and a faith to follow again. It is not the one I grew up in, but it is certainly one that I cannot deny has given power and purpose to my life. I am a huge proponent of the triangle of recovery. There are 3 sides to the program that make it work for me. There is recovery, which is doing the steps, sponsoring other alcoholics, doing the shit my sponsor tells me to. There's unity, which is trying to help my fellow alcoholics and be there when they need me. And there's service. I'm sorry, I had those backwards. So service is trying to be there for my fellow alcoholics and help when they need me. And unity is, I don't have to do this alone. I don't have to do this alone, and neither does anybody else. Those of you that have heard me at my various meetings doing my announcement spiel always know I'm pushing game night for fellowship and unity, because that is the real gift I have gotten in AA. I spent 24 years feeling other and disconnected and like I did not belong anywhere. I have gone to AA meetings all over California since I've gotten sober, and every single one that I have walked into has felt more like home than anywhere else I've ever been. I went to an AA meeting once that was nothing but teachers from my high school I used to sell drugs to, and that was fucking awkward. I know today that no matter what I'm going through, no matter what troubles I may have, if I actually reach out for help, the hand of AA is going to be there. I've seen it in action. Last December, they cut out a bunch of my intestines because they were riddled with cancer, and AA showed up and fucking showed out. People took me to and from my surgery. They housed me for a week afterwards in the Bay Area. They fed me for the next 3 weeks. They covered my shifts at work so my clients weren't fucked over. I can't count the number of times I've needed last minute childcare and called somebody in AA and been like, hey, can you help me with Will? Whether it's a doctor's appointment, a work emergency, needing to go to the ER, whatever. I'm very grateful that AA has shown me that self-will does not have to be the star of the show. I do not have to live life trying to achieve what I want and what I think I need from it. I can just simply try to do the next right thing and not cause any harm whenever I can. I don't succeed. I will be very clear on that. I cause a lot of harm still, but I'm able to recognize it, and I'm able to own it, and I'm able to truly try to change. And that is not something I ever would have been able to do before. I tried for a really long fucking time. I could not. And I'm not able to today because of some power from within myself. I'm able to do it because I don't try anymore. I let God do for me what I cannot do for myself, just like those people who loved me 4 years ago got me to AA when I could not do it for myself. For anybody that's new in the program or coming back or having a hard time or wherever you guys may be along this journey of sobriety, you'll hear a lot of people tell you to keep coming back. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm going to tell you to just stay. Just fucking stay, guys. Because not everybody makes it back. I have no confidence that if I go out and I drink or I relapse on drugs or something that I will make it back. I will not. This is a progressive, fatal disease. And I was far too close to death when I came in to ever think that I'm going to go out and make it back. Another piece of advice that I would give to anybody that's new or struggling, don't just get a sponsor. Get a sponsor who prioritizes being your sponsor over being your friend. I had a lot of sponsors who didn't hold me accountable. Or I had a lot of people I tried to get to sponsor me that wouldn't sponsor me because they couldn't hold me accountable. And then I kept telling them they're my sponsor anyway. And they were like, no, I'm not. I'm your friend. And I've had some of the people that I tried to sponsor. I had to be like, hey, I can't do it. I can't. I value the friendship too much. I'm too worried about offending you. It's really hard. The only thing worse than having a friend for a sponsor is sponsoring yourself. It's the other thing I'll tell you. Don't try to do it. It doesn't work. I tried it. Didn't work. I mean, maybe you can do it differently, but it did not work for me. Don't hesitate to be of service, even in the smallest little ways. This is going to sound really dumb, but when you call people, like you're having a hard time, you want to drink, whatever, you call another alcoholic, you're being of service to them. I don't stay sober today by going to meetings or by sharing or any of that. I stay sober today by trying to help other alcoholics. And the greatest tool I have for that is just talking to people and picking up the phone when they call me. I'm horrible about calling other alcoholics. I pretty much only do it when I'm like desperate or my sponsor tells me to. But I absolutely love picking up the phone. I actually probably should call the answering service and take a shift because I need to. And I'm so grateful because knowing how much better I feel when other people call me has given me the courage to feel like I'm not bothering them when I call them. I'm really grateful for a lot of the lessons that I've gotten in sobriety. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be me. I don't have to apologize for being me. I do not have the answers for how to... I didn't do it. It scared the fuck out of me. I thought it was Will, honestly. I was like, what'd my kid do? I don't personally have the answers for how to get sober, but I can tell you that the way I did is in here. It's in the big book, it's in the 12 and 12, it's in going through the steps with a sponsor. And if you're kind of scared by the big, almost 100-year-old text, the weeks we are not a speaker meeting, we are a big book study, both in person and on Zoom. We do one chapter at a time. We open for sharing afterwards. It's really an awesome opportunity to try to go through the book with a group. Honestly, I did my first big book study trying to land a man. Not gonna lie, it worked. He's out there running around with our kid now. I'm not suggesting anybody go do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, you just beat me to it. Don't do that. But it gave me an interest in wanting to know more about the book and wanting to know more about the program. Because of course I didn't have a sponsor then. Like, no sponsor would like co-sign that bullshit. That's actually how I picked my current sponsor. I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, I really want someone that knows the book and knows the literature and the program and the history of it all. And they suggested a few different people to me. And I asked two of them. One of them told me they weren't sponsoring at the time because of some health problems and stuff. And the other one was like, I think I can do it. Ask me again in 2 or 3 weeks. Then my friends kept nagging me about it. So I actually did ask them again. And they said yes. And I've been working with that sponsor for probably 1.5 years now. And I'm really grateful that my friends did push me to pick up another sponsor and not just walk away and give it up. Because I've had some moments in sobriety that have been really troubling. I had a baby. I had some employment problems. I've had a lot of health problems. I had cancer. I had like 10 CPS calls in 6 months. And through the grace of my higher power and the different way of living and trying to practice the principles, I didn't have to drink over any of it, and I didn't have to go burn anybody's house down either, which was really fucking cool, because that used to be like my go-to thing, was setting shit on fire. I haven't set anything on fire since I got sober. Well, I mean candles, but like that's, you're supposed to do that. I actually, I shared a picture of my chips this morning on Facebook, and one of my cousins reached out to me, and she was like, I remember what you were like. I remember why we stopped talking. I'm really proud of you. and watching, she's not local, so she's like kind of watched my growth from afar. But she was telling me that it's been really inspiring to watch the cycle break, because I come from generation of fucking alcoholics. Like, that shit goes back years. And I don't have to anymore. Like, whether I want to or not, I do not have to pick up. And if that is not a miracle, I do not know what is, because I spent 24 years living in a fucking bottle. And I don't even think of it today. I mean, you know, I see it in the stores and shit, but it doesn't cross my mind as like a viable option for life. I look forward to the day that I'm sitting in these rooms and some young 20-something comes up and is like, "You've been sober longer than I've been alive." I always crack the old timers up, because I'm always telling them that. Like, when I hear somebody that's been sober longer than I've been alive, because I'm only 28, there's quite a few of them around here. They're always like, "Oh, that's cute. You'll get there eventually." And they're just like chuckling at me. And I will consider myself fucking blessed if I'm ever able to make it that far. For now, I'm grateful to have made it to 4 years, and I'm really grateful to have just today even, because that's really all I do have is just today. Time is not a tool. My 4 years don't help me stay sober. Being active in my recovery, continuing to seek spiritual growth and that connection really is instrumental, because I can ruin my life stone cold fucking sober. Like, I came pretty close over the summer to ruining my life stone cold fucking sober. And it was not fun. It was not pleasant. And I really had to, like, come back to, like, the beam and try to start getting that daily practice going again. Because it's so easy to rest on my laurels and not practice the daily program. How much longer do I have to fucking talk for?
Well, it's 7:40, so you have 5 more minutes at max.
Can I call it?
You can call
I
it.
can, oh, thank God. That's all I got, guys.